Okay, thanks. I'm going to do something really stupid. I'm going to try and talk about trust and ethics. And we all know that if anyone in the political arena talks about trust and ethics, it means that next Sunday they'll be on the front page of the tabloids. So that's my topic, trust and ethics in BIM. I want to go further than saying that individuals are responsible for checking the health of their models, and say that we are all part of a system where we all have to be responsible for the outcomes, and we all have to be responsible for our futures as well. So I announced it as Trust and Ethics in BIM. Going to talk a little bit, in fact quite a lot, about ISO 19650, which has had one or two mentions already. The theme of 19650 is collaborative BIM. And it's not about lonely BIM. It's not about using BIM just for producing drawings. It's about trying to improve the way the industry works as a whole. And we have a vision that says that it's information management, and it's a layer cake with management and the processes we go through, and it's an information problem that we have. What we're trying to do is to make something about BIM that makes sense. And time again, as we've walked around the sessions today, we've heard that it's about people, process, and technology. And I really want to put a stop to that, if I could, but it's a bit late. I'd like to stop talking about technology and say, well, it's about information. That's why we're here. The technology is interesting. It's the information that's got value. And in fact, we could go further and say that it's about people, process, and ideas. Because all that software that's being sold out there is about frozen ideas. It's someone's taken a bunch of ideas and frozen them into a piece of software and said, this is how the world is, and if you use our software, you can do X or Y or Z better. Well, let's think about what the ideas underneath that technology is, because if we don't think about that, we'll be in trouble. So what is BIM? Well, when I'm teaching it, and I'm not saying this is the last word on the subject, I talk about three things. Yes, I talk about information management, but I also talk about collaborative working, which is about process, and I also talk about the whole life cycle, which is about people. We care about the future. We are trying to make things different. We're trying to make things better. And so the whole life cycle is actually where the people come into this equation. How do we look after those people? Well, one of the ideas in ISO 19650, and I had to point out earlier in BS 1192 2007, is the idea of a CDE. And the idea of a CDE is about making, or it's about trustworthy people and protecting people. It's about setting up a set of rules that mean that people don't get shafted, they don't get disappointed, they don't get sued, they don't get struck off, all the horrible things that we're all scared of. And so in order to have a set of rules to say that that won't happen, the idea of a CDE was invented. It was invented by my friend Mervyn Richards, and he got an OBE for it, and I think it was well deserved. And there are some rules in a CDE which, if you don't grasp, you'll end up using any old tool. The first rule is that a CDE is read-only. It's a place for putting information so that other people can read it. And the only people for whom a CDE is not read-only is the author of each individual information package, file, model, whatever it happens to be. So the only thing that actually gets written into a CDE are the updates. And if I'm an architect and someone spots a mistake, they have to tell me, because I'm the only person who can update that information. I'm responsible as an architect, or I was once, for that information. The second rule is about sharing early and often. When I started in a paper-based practice, we used to pile up drawings in the corner as they were finished to the last possible moment, and then we'd send them to the print room, and they'd be in the print room for about 4 days, and then they'd go in the post, and they'd be in the post for about a week, and then they'd be in the post room at the other end for another 4 days, and then the guys at the other end probably wouldn't open them for a week and spot that they were rubbish. But that was okay, because they could ring us up and say it's rubbish, and we'd say, yeah, we know, but that was a month ago. Now, we've got a better way of working because we've got electronics, yippee. So we have the opportunity to share information early and often. Early, so that other people can see what you're doing and the direction you're taking the design. Often, so that the design can evolve. Exactly the same thing applies during construction, but I'll tend to talk about design. The next rule is when you share information, you share it with a suitability. Why? Because other people are entitled to know how confident you are in your information. If you share early, and I say this is my first sketch, my first idea, this is provisional, then you don't want the cost consultant spending 3 days running a detailed estimate of it. What you want is the cost consultant to look at that and say, I think we're a bit excessive on external glazing. So you need to share that suitability information to tell people where you are on the information journey. And of course, you hope that by the end of each stage of the project, your information will become, in the terminology, publishable, acceptable to the client. Another rule is that updates keep the same name. So if I look at the architect, if I'm the MEP guy and I look at the architecture on Monday, if I look at it again on Friday, I can go to the same file name, the same identifier, the same place in the CDE, and I can see if it's been updated, or I can use it in a reliable way. The other thing about keeping the same name is it means that you can make a list of all the deliverables on day one of the project, because every deliverable is planned. And no one can slip in an extra one saying, my version of the front door, or version 5, updated, revised, accepted, comments by NN on it. There's only one file with that name, and we know what's meant to be in it. But the last, and I think the most important thing about a CDE, is that the history is securely logged. And if someone says to you, oh, we can use SharePoint, or we can use Dropbox, or going a little back in time, FTP, the answer is no. No, 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 no. In 1999, or 98, a tunnel collapsed at Heathrow Airport. It took about 6 hours to collapse. No one was hurt. Project was delayed by about 4 months. There was a court case, and the judge said, who knew what when? And all the participants said, oh, we weren't told. And then the next participant said, we weren't told. And then the next participant said, we weren't told. And the judge said, damn the lot of you, I'm finding you all guilty. And so suddenly the industry said, we need some document management across the project. And that's when the idea of a CDE came in. And all these rules, and there might be a couple more, but anyway, all these rules are there to protect people from all the bad things that happen, including ending up in court. It's also there to make trustworthy and protected information models. We want to keep the rubbish out. We want the information containers that are in the information model to be planned, finite in number, named in a predictable way, and to have a definite author. So if we go from design to construction, it doesn't mean the contractor starts editing the architect's information. He makes his own information, he puts his own name on it, and is responsible for his work. The way we do that The way we protect the information model is that we check our work in progress before we share it, don't we? Anyone not checking their work before they share it? You're all liars. Okay. Second thing is, the information sits in the shared state long enough for everyone to spot the mistakes, to raise the issues, to query things. And so the measure of a quality project is how much time the information spends in the shared state before it's finally accepted as being what we call publication, but just being accepted by the client or the lead appointed party. But last of all, it's the same point again. Checking. We apply criteria. Okay? And that's been the big mystery, because no one knew what the criteria were. I mean, I've seen checklists for a road project. 98 of the 100 checks were about fonts and line styles. Only 2 of them were about whether the bridge would stand up or not. So, we need criteria. Ta-ta! We got a new standard, guys. Come on. Come on, smile. We got a new standard. It's part 4. Published a month ago. It's about information exchange, and it's about criteria. And what we're trying to do is say we've had a brilliant, 19650 is a brilliant process, but it's never had that much to say about the quality of the data that we're processing. So we're filling that gap now. And so let's look at the process. Most of you should recognize this. We've got work in progress. We've got a shared state, and we've got a published state. And we've got 2 decision points in between. First of all, we try and put the quality assurance during the work in progress. Anything you can do to actually automate or embed quality, whether it's parametric objects or libraries or standard solutions, QA, quality assurance, make sure that you're getting the right answers. Then, step A, check your work in progress, or get your leader, task leader, to check your work before it's shared. So that's the next bit of quality control. Don't share stuff that's wrong. Next step, the information's in the shared area. Everyone in the project can see it, security permitting. Everyone can spot the mistakes. Everyone can question it, and so on. And so at the end of that process, you hope that all the issues have been ironed out. And at step B, the lead appointed party says, I'm going to apply some quality control, and I'm going to decide if it's fit to be published in conjunction with the client. So when do we share at point A? We share it with appropriate status, when the information is coherent, not on Friday afternoon. Just because it's Friday afternoon doesn't mean you share the information. It might be in a mess. The only time to share it is when it's coherent, better than before, and you share it early in each delivery stage or operational event, and often when changes have been made. So don't flood the system with spurious uploads just because it's Friday afternoon. Okay, what happens at point B? You share it, well, it gets transformed into published with appropriate status, when the information is fit for approval by the client, late in the delivery stage because you want to give people time to have sorted out the problems, and hopefully only once. So we can see where the quality control is, and that's the long stop. So very simple. I won't talk about revision because we're going to stick to a timetable. But of course, there is a feedback loop, which is about what you do about the mistakes that are spotted. With also a dotted line, if any of you have looked at family trees and genealogy and stuff, you'll know what a dotted line means. And in genealogy, it means people born outside of wedlock. Dotted lines here mean what kind of information can skip the shared state. You have to read the standard to find out what that is. However, Here's the detail. Where do the criteria come from? Well, the official answer in 19650, it's in the Project Information Standard, or the Asset Information Standard. It's in the Project Shared Resources. It's in the Production Methods and Procedures and in the EIR. Like hell it is. Actually, Part 4 gives you the criteria. It says, actually, there are six criteria about information quality that need to be considered. One, are you conforming with the CDE rules? If you're not, you're off the job. Are you conforming with the schema that you're delivering to? Is there continuity? Have you randomly renamed the reception from 101 to 105? Have you still got the same origin as last time? Are you using the same origin as the MEP guy? We need that continuity for any of the nice things that we want to do. There are criteria around communication. Are you using American dates or UK dates? Didn't know they were different, Gov. Yeah, they're different. It's really important that we don't mess up. Are you using characters that don't have a representation in the language of the client? Seen that before now. We had a Russian client and a UK engineering firm. We want consistency. There are criteria about the consistency it can include clash-free, it can include no gaps, it can include consistent parameters, it can include everything to the same level. No, I don't want to say that. Every space to the same level of development. You don't want one room with all the furniture piled in and then no furniture in any other room. Lots of things about consistency to make sure that the information is valid for automatic and human usage. And then the last one, completeness, which is the tough one, of course, because we need things like MVDs, BIM specifications like ISO 12911, level of information needs specifications to define completeness. And we're not good at it yet, but hopefully with the introduction of IDS, which is Information Delivery Specification, we can start testing it. Those are the information criteria. I'd just like to mention the dotted box there, other criteria. Yeah, you probably ought to be checking that it will still stand up, that it will be a good building, it will be a good office, it will be a good motorway, it will be a good whatever. So part 4 is about information criteria. We just put in the box there to say, yeah, we know there are other things that matter, but they're not the subject of part 4. Now, part of the standard is an informative annex, and it says open schema and data formats. In other words, it's a list of things where the information is accessible to the most number of people. In the UK, we're going to have a national annex as well about how we use classification. So where do the ethics come in here? Well, ethics is about making choices. And one of the big ethical questions is sustainability. And the definition of sustainability I was brought up on was fulfilling the needs of current generation without compromising the needs of future generations. What is information sustainability? Meeting the immediate information need without compromising the medium or long-term ability to use information for economic, social, or environmental sustainability. So there is an ethical dimension to the way we produce information. We want to support current and future users. The standard talks about information providers, information reviewers, and information receivers. And the information receivers may not yet be born. We also have choices. We have choices of the applications we use for authoring, for sharing, reviewing. The standard doesn't talk about applications for consuming the information, but obviously information is for use. we make choices about what schema we're going to follow. Basically, open standards, and only proprietary if it doesn't disadvantage anyone else. So it shifts the balance between proprietary information formats and open information formats. It says if you're going to use proprietary formats, you're going to have to justify it to the team. And also formats, exactly the same, whether it's STEP, XML, JSON, or whatever it happens to be. So there is an ethical dimension to 19650 now about how we use the information standards, because the value of the information is both short, medium, and long term. So I've covered trust, trust for people, trustworthy information models, and ethics in the way we achieve it. I'm dreading Sunday. Okay, thanks very much.